The third part of episode 2 starts with a discussion on how the actions of the oppressed in response to an oppressive system is justified. We reflect on our own fear of freedom, moments of privilege, and connections to the reality described by Paolo Freire. We look into how power can be used without causing destruction to the lives of others, and how liberation is also a personal process. The conversation begins to allude to the importance of education in the pursuit of humanization.
Jumping off of that questioning, diba, we keep asking like, what does that say about the system? What does that blah blah blah? And basically, what we have discussed yesterday in great detail is this internalization of oppression, in itself. So we will start sort of discussing naman the consciousness of the oppressed, because there are certain issues as well that exist within the community in which that oppression exists. Um, so if anyone has any opinions to share about that matter in hand, please feel free to do so. It's open.
Go on.
Siguro before we delve into this oppressor
Sure, sure.
consciousness context, I'd like to go back to one of the main points that Ate Soph has mentioned, the violence by the oppressors and why the actions of the oppressed are actually justified. So personally, when I get to think about this concept wherein the oppressed are labeled as quote savages due to the actions they make, it makes me think that one of the reasons that the oppressors name them so is because they know that part of the movement that these oppressed people are doing is to change a system that already benefits the oppressors.
Basically.
Amen.
Yeah. And to the concept why they see equality as oppression is because one of the factors as to why these oppressors see equality as another form of oppression is because it invalidates the existence and role of power and structure. It is arguable in a sense where it is also questionable. These oppressors are so concerned for the context on who gets to lead, who gets to govern, who has the much bigger influence over the
Yeah.
opposition. Yeah, di ba? But some of them don't realize that you can actually have authority and power in a social structure that doesn't need to dehumanize other people just to
Yes.
get above. Yeah. So
Exactly. Because I think adding to that, didn't Sir Marco also say, na, as human beings, we desire order. It's just that the point that we have to come together and reestablish new values that create more benefiting order, a fair order. It was like Mom, you emphasized on.
Because I guess it also has to do with the fact that deconstruction is such a difficult matter to
Yeah.
start. Like it's so hard to remove an existing system and then replace it with a new one, because it comes with a lot of responsibility and like a lot of
Voices.
burden.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the things that is so hard for us. And going back to the consciousness of the oppressed, this brings us, of course, to the internalized oppression and internalized colonization, and why we are afraid of freedom at some point, because we lose some sort of meaning. So
Yeah.
I'm sort of like curious, and I want to ask you guys about your thoughts on like having a fear of freedom, and do you have you experienced it in some way? Is there still somehow still internalization in your part?
Thinking. But I feel like I feel like it'd be dumb for me to say no, I'm not scared. Of course at some point I'm scared, I'm not perfect. I do, if there is an option for me to just chill and not have to do anything, I would probably opt for that option. But I think a majority of it comes from the fact that I know that I'm not just fighting for myself, that I'm not fighting for something that only I desire. That it's bigger than just me. And so that kind of, at least for me, that kind of fuels me to keep going, to just never shut up about anything. Because I mean, I feel like for a lot of us, especially the generation, I see this being acknowledged on Twitter, that when you have burnouts for constantly having to be socially politically aware of everything, to constantly be on top of everything. It gets really tiring, especially when you see nothing happening, nothing coming from it. And like as a person, you just wish na parang you could just stop. You could be one of those people living in like blissful ignorance, you
Mhm.
know. But then you start to think about even when you recognize like small stories being sparked solely from like one post or solely from one person standing up, and like what we've been seeing recently with the issues on, I'm not sure if I can mention this, but the issues in FU senior high school where someone like stepped up and then now everyone was like, you know what, same. And that's like that's the pushing factor for me, to like, besides the fact that I acknowledge that I'm scared, I acknowledge that I'm afraid of responsibility and the the, the massive burden that comes with creating something new, of creating order. But I feel like the idea that it's more benefiting to everyone, the idea that there are so many burdens na mawawala when we actually fight for it, when we actually go, like, it doesn't matter how difficult it gets, but as long as there's an end that we know it's going to be better than where we are right now, I'm just like, I'm for it. I will fight, I will throw people, I'll body slam a cop.
I feel like personally for me, I am more afraid of stagnation than I am of freedom.
I love that.
I'm more afraid live here in this moment and be like this forever
Yeah.
than
Fuck.
go through the entire process of change. So
Yeah.
that's fine with me because at least I know it's going
We're
somewhere.
going somewhere, yeah.
So I haven't heard Tough in a while. I'm kind of curious to see if like he has some points to raise for us. Oh, bakla,
Yeah.
hoy.
I'm actually thinking pa. Tinitignan ko pa yung mga ano ko.
I think
Privilege
Sophie was
ko.
gonna say something. She unmuted
Joseph.
kanina.
Aya, so go.
I personally love this part ng pedagogy of the oppressed kasi it treated the humanization as not just like a structural type. It's not just the political structure. It's not just an institution. It's not just law guarantees, but it's also inside you. It's internal.
Yeah.
Tapos
Mm-hmm.
kasi 'di ba we always I mean personally I always thought for destroying the system, ganun lang ako.
Overtalk.
Without and then Freire made me realize that destroying the system does not automatically make you liberated. Does not automatically make you
Mm-hmm.
free. Kasi
Yeah.
there's also like internal obstacles for you to acknowledge. Kasi like me
Mhm.
personally as a woman, I want to like dismantle patriarchy, pero I'm unable to do so because I'm scared of men. How
Yeah.
the heck am I? Diba? There's like an internalized fear, an
Mhm.
internalized oppression. You can't fight them off kasi you're dealing with your own obstacles of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that.
I hate that too. But also, I think it's important for us to like note, for the sake of the podcast, na at least from what I've heard with my friends, that we're all, every time we realize the kind of people who we were before we were in this sort of mindset, we're kind of, we get disgusted by the people we were and the things we used to do and the things we enabled and the things that we tolerated that. And I think it's just an important thing to note because we're here now, this is us now, and it took a while but we got there. And it's like this constant
Mm-hmm.
checking, self-checking and self-actualization, which I think, ma'am, you mentioned, where liberation is a praxis, it's continuous, right? And I think in acknowledgement of the fact that we have internalized oppression, even us at this point, there are still things that we discovered that are like, wow, that's highly
Yeah.
oppressive of me. That's so boomer of me to think. You are.
Mommy was gonna
Tsaka,
say
diba?
something.
Ay, sorry.
Sorry. Okay, it's okay.
Go, go, go.
Uh, ano ba? Wait lang. Yung sa part na, yung sabi ni Ate Des na mas natatakot siya na magstay dun sa current position niya rather than being prepared for what's about to happen. Yeah. People who strive for change in the environment where they currently belong in, they must first, well, according to what?
Freire.
Freire? Yeah, they must first critically analyze and recognize the roots, the causes, so that in transforming action, they can create a new situation wherein it makes the impossible possible for
Yeah.
the pursuit of a fuller humanity pa. So yeah.
Yan yung ano eh, it's one of the points that Freire raised on the converts, I guess. And I wouldn't necessarily call us na parang
Mm-hmm.
oppressor to oppressed na convert, but it's still sort of oppressor to an ignorant oppressed
Mm-hmm.
to somewhat, 'di ba, na parang somewhat seeking for that liberation kind of thing. So for me personally, I think personal testimony na I have been converted from previously perpetuating ideas and
Yeah.
enabling behavior of oppression. Kasi
Same.
even now
Aren't we
I
all?
constantly
Yeah.
have to check myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I mentioned this calamarian, but sometimes I'm a feminist, obviously, yeah, and I see a woman, and I sometimes I think, na why would she wear that? Or sometimes yung initial thought, like alam mo
Yeah.
yun yung misogynist,
It's
internalized
the groomed
misogyny,
thought. It's like how you were raised to think.
yeah, still there, and then you have to like, ay hindi, mali, mali, mali,
Yeah, and then you
mali,
catch
mali.
yourself and you're like you bonk yourself in the head. You're like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, like you won't do that to other women. That's not you.
Not you.
Until
Go
you've
sis. Go
grown.
off.
You
So if
look
you were gonna say
good.
something, Karina.
I think this is in connection to internalized oppression. I think that it is also manifested in the anger of the oppressed,
Mm-hmm.
that they seek vengeance. No, they seek vengeance. They don't want to like dismantle the system, but to make, alam mo yun, to
To
turn the table over.
to flip the
Diba?
triangle.
Diba?
Like
To flip the
like
triangle. Hello,
fairies.
bamboo!
Di ba yung... Kasi di ba Freire
Okay.
says then na parang
It's important, yeah.
our view of the oppressor at the moment sort of has become our view of what power is supposed to look like. We've seen that structure for so long. So that's what we think, but that's
Mm.
what we associate with the ideal life.
Yeah.
So we think na yung oppressive behavior and all of those things, yung dominance is very attractive kasi yun yung pinresent to us as like something we should seek.
Mm.
So internalization, you're so right.
It's so right. Model of a manhood thing. Which
Yes.
I think then I think this kind of steps on our last point, pero which comes to play nga yung importance ng pedagogy in all of this. Diba? Na parang you don't just you point ni Sophie kanina parang even if the system is there, if we keep going and teaching our children the same shit that actually brought us here in the first place, then what the fuck is new, diba? What's meron? Anong point?
What's
What's meron?
meron?
That's why yung point din ni Sir Marko last last episode that the classroom is a simulation for society where you have to constantly you have to train these children to constantly be critical of things, to not just take everything at face value and actually pick it apart themselves and then acknowledge the truth, what is the truth, and you have to integrate your subjective narratives into that, and then you know place your values and your beliefs and stuff like that. And where was I going with this? But yeah, that's what I was just wanted to say. But that's the importance of pedagogy and liberation. You have to acknowledge that it's internalized, it's in us, and you can't deny it. Even if you say, when people say, "I can't see race." Yes, you can. You can see race. That's part of life.
You should
You,
see
it's,
race.
you should. I can't see color. Like what? Unless
You
you're blind, I
should.
would accept
Because
that.
have
that's
like
their part, that's a part of their
Yeah,
identity.
diba?
have a very big problem with that I don't see colors thing. For the reason that you're trying to be encouraging and saying that you don't see that there is a divide between people, but it's also very ignorant of you to
It's
do.
ignorant because
Totoo.
it's like
Totoo,
it shows
totoo.
that you don't actually understand the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, okay, go talk, I see you.
Like, it's very, prevalent yung ganong type of mindset. Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially right now in this pandemic, na, people, yung mga, hindi ko na sabihin yung name nila, yung group nila. But like, those people always, like, claim na, pag, kunwari, when you do something very active and, progressive, they always say na, ito ka, ditong group ka, alam mo na yun,
Mm.
left.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, and kapag wala kang ginawa, they're always like, ano ambag mo? Like, ganyan-ganyan. They're always keep going with that narrative. And then like,
Yeah.
ayun, it's very, yung, I think, tama yung sinabi ni Marrian na we have, yung sa importance ng pedagogy of the oppressed. Yeah, kailangan talaga may recognition and acknowledgement. And that's like the most important stage before like proceeding. Ganon. Kasi
Kasi
you have
we
to know
have
your
to
privilege.
To
Ganyan.
stop just dissing sort of go.
Kasi gagawin na, I'm done.
Okay. So I was just gonna say na parang we have to like just stop putting the blame,
Yeah.
like all of the blame sa system, because we are part of the system. And at a certain
Basically.
point we are, and diba, we're helping the system function. So if we want to change the system, we have to be part of the
Oh my
change,
God,
you know, which is like
remember,
super hashtag quotes, hashtag Tumblr, pero
Remember that
I would
part?
like to add here yung sinabi ni mom na the context. The context is important. And that ideas change over time. Kasi what we hate with the older generations in our part, in the older generation, is that they keep on asserting their ideas on us and it's not even applicable anymore. And it will come to the point na tayo naman yung older generation. Diba? It will come to the point na tayo naman yung older generations and what we think is right now is correct in our context now will not be correct in the context of others in the
Yes.
next generation.
Yeah.
And that's important in terms of pedagogy, diba? It's recognizing the fact that some of your ideas are not applicable anymore. It's continuous what's the word again? It's the continuous examination of yourself. You keep on
checking,
basta yun.
self-check.
Yes.
Remember that when
Gets the runs off, don't worry.
okay,
I
go
win,
Des.
so
Okay, let's go.
stop. Go. I'm gonna transition
okay.
to the next one kasi.
Okay,
So you can
remember that yung kahapon sabi ni Mom Yu na ayun nga, wait lang. Relate ko lang sa sinabi ni Marrian na the reason why there's a system because nandito tayo, like we're human beings, we live in a society. So sabi ni Mom Yu na there is a system because we like order.
Yeah.
Like I was like, "Oh my god." So right now in our context, makikita natin na yung system natin is very destructive, very oppressive, very tyrannical. So like to myself, oh my god, what did I enable
as a Scorpio.
to maintain like to steal or be maintain this system? Like what did I do, diba?
Yes.
So oh my god, that's very like
as a
sakalin ko
Scorpio,
na lang sarili ko.
Kristoffer.
As a man, I'm sorry. Please.
I love it. Every time he apologizes for it, I feel like a year is added to my life.
Yeah.
Diba? As a former like very conservative girl, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. At
As a
this point,
former-
I have to apologize.
Same, apologizing to emasculating myself just to like have some sort of power and acting like I'm better than everyone. I would just like to say sorry to everyone I spent high school with.
Oh my god.
I'm so sorry. I promise I'm better now.
Yeah, we're not laughing because it's fun. It's just you know
Yeah,
it's
I'm laughing because it's ridiculous of me, but
Diba?
then also consider even
Yeah.
acknowledging that there are people right now who are like this. But I just like before you transition this, yun nga, parang you mentioning, I think kasi it's part of episode 1 then where they really pressed on yung cancel culture. I think it's nice that we have to talk about that. We get to talk about them. Na parang people are still going through changes. And people are still self-actualizing. They're in the process of adjusting their values, and it's kind of dismissive of, not kind of, extremely dismissive of us to just like cut them off without even attempting to educate them. Just like, hello, cancel culture. I appreciate the point, but we're better than that, you know. We're at a certain point. We're not getting rid of you because we need you as part of the system. But now we just need you to function properly.
yeah.
So here's how to do that.